Good evening, Shindo here. Well, back to NATO news and Turkey. This is from Business Insider. NATO's second largest military power is threatening a dramatic pivot to Russia and China. If you like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Please click like, comment, and share my videos. I have been covering the Turkey slowly leaving NATO for some time now. And these things will not be really gone into in depth in any of the media outlets. You have to search for this stuff online. The article, as always, will be in the description box. Turkey is looking into joining a Chinese and Russian-led alliance known as Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told reporters on Sunday at the end of his official tour of Pakistan and Uzbekistan. Erdogan said he met with SCO leaders over the weekend and expressed his interest in joining the Eurasian Political, Economic, and Military Alliance as an alternative to joining the European Union, which has not been receptive to Turkey's repeated bids for membership that began in 1963. France, Germany, and Belgium, home to Brussels, where the EU is headquartered, have long opposed Turkey's accession to the EU. Erdogan's reluctance to sign on a certain membership requirements and his increasingly authoritarian leadership over Turkey have also sparked concern among European leaders that he is not committed to a Western conception of human rights and civil liberties. Thousands of Turkish civil servants, as well as military personnel, police officers, academics, and teachers, have been purged or arrested on suspicion that they were associated with a failed coup in July of Erdogan and his ruling Justice and Department Party, or AKP. Dozens of journalists, primarily those working for opposition newspapers, have also been arrested since the attempted coup, while several opposition outlets have been shut down altogether. Erdogan insisted on a recent interview with 60 Minutes that, quote, these measures are being taken by prosecutors and judges in full accordance with the rule of law, unquote. But the crackdown has led to European Commission to warn Turkey that it is, quote, backsliding in human rights and democracy, an accusation Erdogan appears to scoff at. Quote, from time to time we see insults directed at myself, claims that there were no freedom of expression in Turkey, unquote, Erdogan said on Sunday. Quote, meanwhile, terrorists prance around in France, Germany, and Belgian streets that this is what they understand of freedom, unquote. A rejection or a bluff, increasing disenchantment with the EU and the perception that he is being lectured to by the U.S., which supports anti-ISIS Syrian Kurds viewed by Turkey as terrorists, has apparently spurred Erdogan to look east, where his domestic policies have not been heavily scrutinized or condemned. I'm sure that I will get a few trolls for saying this, but it's the truth. No one in the Middle East likes the Kurds. U.S. backing the Kurds doesn't really help our position as Americans in the Middle East. Doesn't do a thing for us. But I'm just giving it straight, folks. Quote, Erdogan feels much more comfortable and at home among the authoritarian regimes of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization rather than facing the scrutiny and criticism of the European family of nations, unquote. Akin Erdemir, an expert on Turkey and senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, told Business Insider on Monday. joining or even threatening to join the Shanghai bloc, which is heavily influenced by Russia and China, would rattle the West, and as Erdogan said on Sunday, would, quote, considerably broaden Turkey's room for maneuver, unquote. Quote, if Turkey were to actually join the SCO, it would, of course, drastically alter relations with the U.S. and NATO, unquote. Michael Koplow, a Middle Eastern analyst and policy director of Israel Policy Forum, told Business Insider on Monday, quote, it would be viewed as a rejection of the Western alliance and make it incredibly difficult to include Turkey in any type of high-level strategic dialogue, given concerns about Russian expansionism, unquote. He said, adding that Turkey, unlike other NATO members, is already a partner country to the SCO dialogue. Still, many analysts are skeptical that Erdogan is prepared to put his money where his mouth is. He has been flirting heavily and publicly with Russia since the summer, but it's unclear whether a closer alliance with Russia and China would benefit Turkey politically or economically. Quote, Erdogan's weather vane foreign policy characterized by frequent U-turns is based neither on values nor principles, unquote, said Erdemir, a former member of the Turkish parliament. He noted that Erdogan made the same announcement about the SCO membership during a November 2013 meeting with Putin, yet never acted on it. Michael Kaufman, an expert on Russian and Eurasian affairs and fellow at the Wilson Center, said the SCO is, quote, not a cohesive economic or political bloc, unquote, and would offer little to Turkey in practice other than, quote, instill the perception that the West is somehow losing Turkey and should chase Erdogan to get it back. A rogue and dysfunctional ally. Complicating the Western temptation to write off Erdogan's comments as empty threats, however, is Turkey's recent deal with the EU to help stem the flow of refugees trying to enter Europe from Syria. Quote, Erdogan knows that the EU views Turkey as critical to staunching the flow of refugees to Europe, unquote, Kaplow said. Quote, he has a long history of making these types of threats in order to pressure Europe into concession of various sorts. It's a gambit that will probably be successful if recent history is any guide, unquote. Over the summer, the EU agreed to pay Turkey 3 billion euros, that's $3.2 billion, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel promised to speed up Turkey's EU bid if Turkey pledged to harbor the vast number of refugees and migrants seeking asylum in Europe. Turkey's entry into the SCO would also complicate its relationship with NATO. Quote, in theory, SCO membership would not require Turkey's exit from NATO, unquote, geopolitical expert Ian Bremmer, president of political risk firm Eurasia Group, told Business Insider on Tuesday. Quote, in practice, however, it would severely stain Ankara's ties with other NATO members, unquote. Ultimately, however, Bremer believes Erdogan is just looking for leverage. Erdogan wants, quote, the U.S. to rely less on the Syrian Kurds and to extradite Fethullah Gulen rather than a signal of historic and strategic shift away from the West, unquote, he said, noting that many exiting SCO members don't necessarily want Turkey to join. Quote, Erdogan himself said yesterday relations with the U.S. and NATO are on track, so I think there's lots of smoke, no fire here, unquote, he added. Erdogan told CBS over the weekend that Turkey is, quote, moving in the same direction with NATO that we have always done, unquote, but July's failed coup appears to have made him only more determined to stomp out dissent, whether from its own citizens or the international community. Erdogan, meanwhile, predicted that Turkey's, quote, gradual drift from NATO, unquote, would continue. Putin, quote, Putin will make sure that this is a slow and painful process for Turkey and the transatlantic alliance, he said, quote, he knows that it is a rogue and dysfunctional NATO ally. Turkey is of greater use to Moscow than is a defector to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I can tell you that Vladimir Putin is playing chess while our president is still playing checkers. And when you've got a country that knows how strategically important it is to NATO, like Turkey, just sort of going off the farm, so to speak, so easily, without any reservations on its part. It just goes to show how incredibly inept the current occupant in the White House has been as far as foreign policy is concerned. So I don't know what Trump's going to do with this. He could very well make this a lot worse, knowing him. So we will see, but you can see that in the long run, once things finally start falling apart, and they will, who's going to fall into which side? You've got Turkey, Russia, Iran, China, North Korea against the EU, Israel, and the U.S. That is exactly, and I would say Saudi Arabia would probably fall on the U.S. side. Saudi Arabia and the OPEC countries. So we'll see. Just a matter of time, folks. Just a matter of time. The economic collapse is still going to happen. Just because people voted in Donald Trump doesn't mean that the economic collapse is not going to happen. Don't be fooled. And once that happens, we will see the tension mount towards a world war. But first, I believe there's going to be a major peace treaty, signed by the president-elect. He might do it before he even gets into office. We shall see. This is Shindo. Have a good Tuesday evening.